welcome to Two Guys Garage.
Now, we all know life gets busy and we put things off. Well, this is one of those cases. A lot of miles, a lot of abuse. We're here to take care of it.
Yeah, man, this pup has 180,000 miles on it. It's just a 2006, so she's seen the road a ton.
Lots of soccer practice, lots of getting groceries. You know how it goes, but we're here to take care of it.
Kev, highest mileage vehicle you got in your fleet?
Ooh, well, I got 3 at 160. I got another one at a $120.
Yeah.
So, you know, I kind of get attached to them. And as long as they're running good, you know, I don't want to let them go.
Yeah, man, that's what happens. We normally get a really good, reliable vehicle, get a lot of miles on it, but your confidence gets shaken if it breaks down once or twice.
Yeah.
It could be little things, serpentine belts, vacuum hoses like this little dry rot you see here.
Yeah, well, it's easy if you follow the maintenance schedule from your manufacturer. You know, for that first 100, 150K, you're doing your shocks when you're supposed to, your brakes when you're supposed to, maybe you're flushing your fluids. But when you start getting 150, 180,
Yeah.
200 plus, you know, 1,000 miles on them, then you start getting a lot of these small little things, like you said, like just that little vacuum line that you're not really paying attention to.
Yeah.
It's not on your maintenance schedule. Well, that guy could just fail on you while you're going down the road. So what you want to do is make sure while you're doing those big maintenance items, the obvious ones, you start eyeballing all the little details. You know, and occasionally you can decide that, like that radiator, it didn't go bad, but do I want to be stuck on a road trip with my family going to, you know, a theme park?
Yeah.
You're stuck on the side of the road? So you can decide when you've got an attachment to a vehicle, you don't want to get into another car payment, to go ahead and, you know, hit some of the other things on there, and then boom, you're good for another 50 or 75,000 miles or whatever it is for that particular area. Now, with the big help from Federated Auto Parts, we're going to knock a lot of those question marks right off the page. But once this intake is off, we can look down in the valley, we can look for hoses and things that are dry rotted or cracked.
And right out of the gate, man, we took that intake off. You see this PCV valve hose right here, right? And this thing, look, already finding some cracks in it.
Yeah.
You know, it was sitting there underneath both sides. You know, it's supposed to be pretty pliable, but I could snap this thing just like that.
Yeah, so we'll have to add that to the list and, you know, some small things while we're in there.
And you can see just from heat and so forth and lines how dry rotted this is. Now, this is a good point. When we pull the intake off, you want to clean that up. All right, this is the intake plan of the runners. So have some masking tape around and just cover these guys up so a lot of this debris in particular doesn't fall down into the
You know,
motor.
nut, bolt, and screw too, you know?
That's the worst.
Well, we're going to do some preventative maintenance here. And one of the items is a VVT, or variable valve timing solenoid valve. So you've got, in this case, we've got our cams on top of the engine, and up front, we've got cam phasers. So that cam phaser can rotate the cam forward or backwards relative to the crank. So we can pick up power, fuel economy, especially
efficiency.
emissions when you got to get your emissions testing. But what happens is you've got a control valve right here. This is a spool valve, and I'll pull this guy off. That's controlling that position. And these guys eventually can get clogged with small amounts of debris because they're a very precise little valve. And you can see this one, super easy to get to and simple to replace. So we've got a replacement. Ours is from Dorman. And what's nice is 3 bolts and a connector. This guy is off. It comes with a new gasket over here. And I'll show you how this thing works. Pretty neat little device. There we go. So if you look in here, it's just a series of holes, but if we flip it over, and we've got basically a shuttle valve in here, and it's going to open up different circuits to allow oil to go from one location to the other. And what that does, if we look at the actual mechanism up here, on the front of that camshaft, we've got this phaser, and we can pump oil on one side of a vein and drive it this direction. We can pump oil on the other side of the vein and pump it that direction. And that's going to give us our timing changes. So real easy with a couple of bolts to make sure we're safe. We've got all ourselves covered for performance, fuel economy, and everything else.
All right. Now we're attacking this fuel rail here, and understand, it's got a lot of high pressure fuel sitting right in here. You take the little clip off, these pop right out with a little O-ring right here. Now, when you do this, when you're gonna attack fuel rails and replace something like injectors, a great thing to do is make sure you clean out all this road grime and debris you're gonna get laying down here in the intake. Whether you use a wet vac and just suck it out, you definitely wanna address down here. You'll have everything from leaves, road grime, dirt, and so forth before you pull these injectors out and put your new ones in. Now let's take a look at these these injectors. It's an electronically controlled valve in here. And what happens is a lot of times you get debris, particulates in these little tiny orifices right in here. Now the job of this thing, right, is when it gets that signal, it's gonna spray a fine mist of fuel, like that. And what happens when it gets clogged up, you'll drip and it pulls up and so forth. You get a rough idle, you don't get that sweet little seg into that fine mist of fuel and air. So our friends at Federated hooked us up with a bunch of SMP injectors. So I'll pop all these off, get our new ones in here, and this thing will be running fine.
One area that's real easy maintenance, but also very important, is the Serpentine Belt. And what's nice is, it's a piece of cake to do. The one thing you want to make sure is you've sort of drawn out, at least mentally, really good, or maybe on a piece of paper, take a photo of that routing. There's a lot of little circles in there, and you can get confused on how that belt went. Now in the old days, maybe you'd get 40, 50,000 miles out of a belt and you could look for cracks and things like that and it was bad. But with the EPDM construction, these things last a whole lot longer, which is great. 85,000 miles is where they start to kind of taper off. So you can't look at them anymore for cracks. You can get a little cheap tool and you can measure the groove depths. To get the friction to drive all these components, it's not two flat surfaces. It's those grooves create a lot of friction area to get everything to drive properly. And the other thing too is once they wear out, you can a lot of times get some squealing because there's an aramid fiber layer. Now that layer is what's going to keep the noise down so it's not squealing on you. So make sure you pick up like a good US made like Dayco belt. And even the designs in here that you don't even notice is the shapes of these profiles really help to go in there and grip and get the thing driving but not get the squealing. So a lot of these newer belts are actually improving some of the squealing noises from earlier Serpentine Belt designs that weren't so good. Now you want to make sure also you replace your tensioner and your idler because these things have been spinning around for 180,000 miles. And this guy's not just hanging around with a spring on it. You've got crank torsional, so every time that cylinder fires, you're pulling the belt, releasing it. Every time that AC compressor is pumping. So you got a lot of action going on with that tensioner. So a couple of bolts, a little routing, easy maintenance. We've got a lot more great maintenance, so stick around. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. We've got a 2006 Pathfinder, but 180,000 miles. So we're doing a lot of maintenance, but while we're here, we're also noticing things that we've got to fix while we're at it. So we got our new radiator in here from Denso. So this whole front cooling pack is going to be nice and solid, give us lots of confidence. And while we're in here, replacing hoses, we noticed a nice little CSI, sort of investigative.
Ooh.
Yeah, look at that.
Imagine you're just driving along, your car runs great, so you think. But underneath some hoses, underneath some brackets, there's things like this going on. And this is just all oxidation. You ever wonder what oxidation looks like? Well, right there it is. We've got a little leak, obviously some coolant is pouring out. This is what happens when it comes in the atmosphere. Oxidation from the aluminum and so forth. So this could have been a big problem not too far down the road.
Yeah, but that's why you got to put on your little investigator goggles, and while you're fixing certain things, keep your eyes open. Now, this could be the gasket just weeping. It could be porosity or corrosion in the actual housing. So we'll clean that up. We'll throw a new thermostat in there and make sure that that's all good to go along with our hoses. Now we got some Dayco hoses, and that's going to make sure all this stuff is nice and stout. Now the thing about a hose is you look at it and you're like, yeah, that looks round.
It looks fine.
That looks good.
Not looking from the inside.
Yeah, so they deteriorate from the inside, and usually about 100,000 miles, they're pretty stout, or about 6 years, but after that, you really got to start being concerned about the degradation. So good practice to go ahead every, 6 years, 100,000 miles, replace a lot of that stuff. Like I said, get your confidence back. So we'll continue to get some parts ordered for that and get our hoses on and get this thing buttoned up. Long gone are the days when you had to do a full tune-up at 40, 50,000 miles. Ignition systems can go up to 100,000 miles or so. So we're almost at the 200,000 point, so we're gonna go ahead and clean everything up. Now we've got coils and we've got the boots. And just like in the old days, right, you've got a coil, and this is essentially your short spark plug wire. So you wanna inspect both. Now you can get kits like ours from SMP that have the coil and boot assembly together. You can get the boots separately, the coil separately. So depending on the condition and how many miles you have, but in our case, we're just gonna do the whole thing. It's nice and simple. Now, the other thing we're gonna do, obviously, is do the spark plugs. So we've got some Iridium plugs from Denso, and if you check them out, you know, what's nice about them is you can see that fine point in there. Now that's going to give good ignitability, but the iridium is what's going to give it that good wear property. So we're going to throw all those in, get the spark and ignition running tip top, clean this up, and we're going to work our way to the bottom side of this car.
You need to flush your vehicle's power steering system as part of your regular maintenance. Flushing the system will remove aluminum shavings and other contaminants that old power steering fluids leave behind. This is also important when you're installing a new power steering pump or rack and pinion. When adding your new fluid, use Seafoam TransTune. It's formulated to control moisture, clean and lubricate any hydraulic system, including automatic transmissions, power steering pumps, and rack and pinions. It helps clean gum and varnish buildup, removes moisture from the transmission fluid, power steering fluid, and hydraulic oil. If you're experiencing a rough or erratic shifting in automatic transmissions, use TransTune to improve shift quality, or use it as a pre-service cleaner before transmission problems even develop. This tip is brought to you by Seafoam, the choice of mechanics for over 70 years. For more information about anything you've seen in today's show, check out gactv.com or visit TwoGuysGarage.com. This segment of Two Guys Garage is brought to you by You Coat It. Do-it-yourself floor coatings for a durable protective finish.
You got that? Get that out of the way. All right. Well, as you can see, we're tearing the front end of this truck apart pretty rapidly. Now, we want to get back to that original ride quality. Now, one of the things you overlook typically is springs. You think, oh, that spring's still in there, but they do sag over time and they won't rebound properly. And you're not going to get equal footprint on the ground all the way around the car. So we've got some new springs from Moog, properly heat treated. They're going to make the thing ride right, evenly on the ground. And we're going to do the shocks and struts as well. So we've got KYBs. Now, these are great because they're going to bring back that original OE quality ride and feel. But just because you throw on springs and struts, you gotta make sure all those other little pivot points are working right.
Yeah, man, and it's funny, you never notice that because you drive your car on a daily basis.
Sneaks up.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. All right, let me show you what we're doing here. Ball joints are always a big part of suspension. You hate when those guys fail. Now, this is the old ball joint, and this is the new guy we have from Moog. Cool thing about that, it's got a insert here, so it serves where you can lube it up and so forth, whereas the old guys just didn't. Another thing, this ball joint tool. Now, a lot of ball joints have a little socket, right? And you could just sit down. Now, you could get these ball joint servicing tools at any hardware store, any tool stop. You can borrow it from your buddy and so forth. And what I'm going to do here, make a little racket, press this guy right out of here. It's going to fall up into this cavity, and we'll get the new one from Moog in there, okay? Then I'll get that hub good and tight. Really cool. We got new hubs, man. 4 bolts, easy off, easy on. And everything's included in the little kit here, so it makes it really sweet. Now on to our new brake rotor here from Wagner. Pretty cool. We got it all cleaned up. We'll drop this guy right on, and everything you need from our guys at Wagner, including, you know, new brake lines, new fittings. We're gonna get this thing in tip-top shape, so even at 250,000, 260,000 miles, there's no issues.
Yeah, now we've got our calipers. So these are from Cardone, and what's nice is they come with all the hardware. So I'm putting the little stainless clips in here. This is what the pad is going to ride on. Now, these are a full rebuilt, so we don't have to worry about any of the seals, any of the slides, any of the gaskets. And to go with the Cardone calipers, you want to make sure you get a good pad. We like to do vehicle specific. So the OE spec'd out exactly what compound, what friction, everything it should be. So we've got these from Federated. These are SST. Now, they're precision fit as far as the backing plate. So that's what's going to slide in the hardware and not bind up, not stick, not have premature wear, funny sounds. And you want to make sure you put the shims on. So that's going to make sure it's low NVH. You don't have the squeaks and all that stuff. So
noise, vibration.
all right, it's going to pull that hose off. I got my gaskets. We can bolt it back on, start pumping the hydraulics, and get all the air out.
Okay, now we got new brakes in all 4 corners of our girl. It's time to bleed the brakes. Now, the first thing we like to do is take a turkey baster, right? Stick down in the old reservoir, pull out all the old contaminated fluid, just pull it right in, get rid of it, and tap it off with some Mag 1.3 fluid. Now, once you got that, you're ready to bleed.
That's right, because you don't want to be flushing a whole bunch of old fluid. It just takes more time. Right. Now, speaking of time, we got a power bleeder. This is from Motive Products. And what's awesome about it's a one-man job. Yeah. So you got your fluid in here, you put a little bit of extra in here, so you got plenty. You pump this guy up to about 10, 15 PSI. And what's nice is you got about 2 quarts here in a polyethylene tank, so you got plenty of volume of fluid and air. So once you've got pressure on here, you can read your gauge. This thing just sits, then you can go around and start bleeding. So hit your far corner, work your way up. All you gotta do is crack the bleeder. Since you've got pressure and fluid, it's always flowing through. So again,
difficult, let me get it here.
yeah, if I wasn't so lazy, I'd do it, but I'm gonna hire my man Willie here to go
Warm
there.
me out, it's done, it's going now, it's bleeding clean fluid. It's really tough.
All right, so all we gotta do is finish off the last little air bubbles, make sure we got clean fluid coming out all corners. Our little Motive Products power bleeder makes this about as easy as you can get.
Man, that was a tough bleed job, man.
Yeah, man, I think I tore a rotator cuff. Hey, but you think about it, we did do some heavy lifting on this thing.
Yeah.
Radiator, injectors, VVT solenoids, all kinds of brakes, suspension components, man. What a day.
I'm getting tired just listening to you go through the list. We did put a lot of elbow grease into this car, but it's got 180,000 miles on it, so it's seen its fair share.
Yeah, man, it's gonna see a lot more miles too. So if you need to do a 180,000 mile checkup, roll by your Federated Auto Parts store, grab a friend, and a lot of time.
Yeah, but as much work as we got done, you can see we got a whole lot more to go, so we better get back on.
Yeah, no. Let's go. You know, we've all seen it. You're driving around town and somebody has big duct tape all over their window, all over the roof of their car and so forth. You think nobody's really paying attention, but we all see it and chances are we're pointing. Did you know that that replacement can usually be done simply by a window regulator? Dorman's direct fit window regulators are key because over time, these cables, these wheels, these tracks get rust, oxidation build up, and they just fail. A lot of times in the cold months, the windows get really heavy due to ice and so forth. So a direct window regulator replacement from Dorman is a key to making this an easy fix. Comes already pre-lubed, pre-greased up, really simple to do. Whole thing takes about 30 minutes, couple screws, no wires to splice, nothing like that to worry about. Dorman started making window regulators over a decade ago, and they've been leading the charge ever since. Find a Dorman direct fit window regulator at Federated Auto Parts.
Hey, welcome back. Now check out one of our favorite tools in the shop on those long winter months. This is our Lanair MX200. It's a waste oil heater.
Yeah, man, and you gotta imagine between you, your friends, and people you know, you have enough old oil laying around to keep yourself and your shop pretty toasty throughout the winter.
That's right. Now you don't have to tote it anywhere. You don't have to dispose it and worry about spillage, liability, any issues with the environment. Just put your old oil right here, right on site. Keep you nice and toasty, which is free energy.
Yeah, man, and it's the EPA approved way to dispose of your old waste oil. The Lanair MX200 waste oil heater.
All right, next time you're replacing those old corroded fuel lines and brake lines under your car, maybe you're building that cool hot rod, you're gonna build some lines yourself, check these guys out.
Yeah, from AGS, it's a NiCob, and it's a copper alloy. It's easy bend technology, you can see right there, and in these pictures, you can do it all by hand, and it looks really cool.
The nice thing is you don't always have to have a special tool. It won't kink on you.
Yeah.
It flows real nice. You can wrap it around a broom handle, whatever you've got around the shop, or even your fingers.
Yeah.
And it's the alloy that makes it look kind of cool. You can see the copper look to it, but it's the corrosion and rust resistance. It'll last forever. These are the NiCob lines for brake and fuel from AGS, and you can pick them up at Federated Auto Parts.
All right, a little bottle that packs a serious punch. It's STP's Super Concentrated Fuel Injector Cleaner.
Yeah, it's got up to 10 times the amount of cleaning agents as the leading competitors. Now, that's going to restore lost power and acceleration.
Yeah, man, those concentrated detergents going to go in there and snatch up all that carbon, gum, varnish, all that stuff on the valves and the fuel injectors.
Yeah, and once you clean those fuel injectors, you could pick up fuel economy, improve your emissions.
Yeah.
So you want to drop it in about every 4,000 miles, or give or take an oil change.
Yeah.
And you can treat up to about 21 gallons out of this little bottle.
Nice stuff, man. The STP Super Concentrated Fuel Injector Cleaner.
Do you ever want protection for your iPhone or your iPad, but you're not really into those pink plastic and sparkly covers?
Not really my color, man.
Yeah, well, from Ultimate Truck Gear, it's Me Mojo, and they got a full lineup of really killer, sort of aggressive-looking cases and protective covers for all of your electronics.
Yeah, man, it's all billet aluminum, and this actually serves a purpose because you get this case and your phone rides in this polymer, so it never really touches this billet, and that's the protective layer itself. Check this out, though. They have it for an iPad, and it comes with a kickstand. anything's cooler with a kickstand, man. You can watch your movies, sit right there. How about that?
Yeah, check out your photo albums, and of course, you know, they're designed well, so you've got all your access to your buttons and features. They've got all different colors, you know, the black and the billet stuff, different styles. So yeah, MeMojo's got a whole lineup of stuff that'll make your gear awesome. Well, hey, I hope you guys learned a lot today. We blasted through that Pathfinder.
Man.
Really got a lot of work done. That thing's gonna be tip-top for a number of miles.
Yeah, another 100,000 plus on it, right? Hope you enjoyed it, man. We're out of time now. Gotta go.